you ever been in one of those situations where you're like, man, I wish I would have known about this. This would have been amazing to know about. Well, there are a couple things that I definitely see that on the Army side where it's like, man, I wish I would have known about that when I was in the Army or right when I got out of the Army. A lot of kind of different scenarios. And I've got a couple of those that I want to make sure you're educated on so that way you're not in that position where you're like, man, wish I would have known about that. Sometimes there's like these hidden gems to things, and there are some hidden kind of secrets, hidden gems to the United States Army, specifically 2 of them that I really want to cover. And you may already know about these things. They are not like so secret that nobody knows about them, and I'm the only one that knows about them, of course not. But I have found that there is a good majority of people that, like, when I explain about these awesome things that you could have done in the Army or after you got out of the Army, they're like, man, I didn't know that was the thing. So that's kind of the idea, is to kind of hit on that topic for those of you that are in that situation. And of course, if you want to learn more about the United States Army, then of course make sure you subscribe to this channel, you click on the bell, you do all that awesome stuff. But let's not waste too much of your time, and let's kind of talk about them. I got 2 of them. Let's talk about the first one, which is mainly for people that probably are currently in the Army and maybe they want to change things up a little bit. If you didn't know, there's this thing called AGR, and it stands for Active Guard Reserve, and it means that you work with reserve units, but on active duty. When I went to re-enlist for the very first time, I tried talking to the career counselor, to the retention NCO, to tell him that I wanted to try to get one of those awesome units that I've heard about where you work with the reserves, but you're still on active duty. And he kind of was like, I can't really do that. Maybe he didn't know about it, but he kind of blew me off with it, and I didn't get that option. But that was literally this. This is AGR. That's what AGR does. AGR works with reserve units, but still on active duty. So you have the same active duty pay, you have the same active duty benefits, but you're working with the reserves. They're also working with the National Guard too, is reserves and National Guard. But when those individuals have to do like their weekend training or their 2 weeks a year they have to do, there's somebody that's working full time to make sure that training is gonna be well planned and prepared on time, hopefully. That is the job of these active duty individuals, and also different support assets to make sure that things are going well when these other individuals that are reserves National Guard are off doing their other day job that they do outside of the Army. Things are still getting done back at the units. Because like these reserves and National Guard units, they're not just only active during these times and then the rest of the time it's like a ghost town around the unit. No, you have these AGR individuals that are taking care of the day-to-day stuff, taking care of orders, taking care of pay problems, taking care of whatever needs to be, taken care of. One of the really nice things I feel like is good about the AGR thing is that you're not kind of stuck with these like set active duty units, right? You're trying to go maybe closer to your hometown and there's not any of these major installations in that area, but maybe there's a reserve or National Guard unit and maybe you can get AGR for that area. So it definitely opens up a window of a lot more choices for duty assignments. You're not having to be stuck with just the really common active duty ones you always hear about, like Fort Hood, Fort Riley, Fort Carson, Fort Irwin, whatever, right? You have a lot more options because now you can also look at these reserve and National Guard units. Some of those installations are still choices because you do still have like reserves and National Guard units that work on those installations, but it definitely opens it up to a lot more. It does not seem like this is something you can just automatically join the Army as. The way they kind of make it sound like is that you have to have already been in active duty, reserves, and National Guard, and then apply for AGR. And it is still limited to certain MOSs. Like if you try to do this as an 11 Bravo, that's not gonna be a thing you'd be able to do, but there is still a lot of MOSs that it is available for. Some of the other requirements is like you have to be between an E4, like a specialist, to a master sergeant. So you can't be like a private, a PFC. You're gonna have to at least make it up to an E4 to be eligible for that. So I don't know if you can actually do that, like if you went and got like a 4-year degree, so you were able to come into the Army as an E4 and then qualify for AGR because you're already coming in as E4, maybe, I don't know. They didn't really explain that. The way that everything's really worded, like on the official Army website or any kind of documentation you look up about AGR, makes it sound like it's more like transferring to this. So someone who's already on active duty, reserves, and National Guard. So a potential way to kind of switch it up to that, because the nice thing, like I said, is that you're going to a reserve unit. And if you've ever talked to someone who's in the reserves compared to someone who's on active duty, it's a completely different lifestyle. It's way more relaxed, way more chill, not quite as strict. I mean, you still have the same requirements like physical fitness and, weapons qualification, all that stuff like that. But you'll find that people will say that it's less stressful. And that's not to say that it's guaranteed to be that. I mean, you might still be in some situation where you just end up with a really hectic AGR unit or something like that. But nonetheless, the majority of people that I've always talked to, they're like, oh man, it's way different on the reserve side. Especially people that I've talked to that have gone from active duty to reserves. They're like, oh yeah, it's a completely different world. They're like, yeah, it's way more chill. It's definitely not as strict as it was on active duty, way less stress than I had on active duty. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, the active duty benefits and everything, the pay, but being on the reserve side. I re-enlisted a bunch of times to stay active duty to make sure that I was gonna be set for when I got out of the Army and all that stuff. If I would have known about this, this probably would have been a great way for me to kind of get away from active duty, but still kind of set myself up for better success type of thing and go AGR. And I think that would have been better. And who knows, maybe that could have led to me staying in the Army much longer, because maybe I would have liked being in the Army more, because it wouldn't have been quite as stressful as what it was like on the active duty side. Who knows? Now, the second one that I wanted to mention is more for people that are getting out of the Army or people who have already been out of the Army. And that is a program called the Veteran Readiness and Employment. It's also referred to as VRNE. They've also referred to it as Chapter 31. It's previously known as Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment, also known as Voc Rehab. So it's had quite a few names. The current name that they go by is Veteran Readiness and Employment, or the VRNE. So that's the current name of the program. I always knew it as Voc Rehab. That's the way I heard about it and discovered about this program that I didn't know existed, was the Voc Rehab name. And I've known people that have done the Voc Rehab, but let me tell you what that program actually does. So it does quite a few things. It helps people get jobs. It can help you start your own business. The big one is the education side of the house of this whole program. So you've always heard probably about, like, you know, the GI Bill, the post 9/11, right? And how that kind of works, where they'll pay you, you know, a little bit to go to school. They also pay for your schooling, so you can get an education. You can get like a bachelor's degree. Well, this one I know a guy who did this and got a master's degree, I believe, out of it. So you get more education out of this program, but there's also a lot more benefits too, because this one will pay for your school. It does still, I believe, pay you the BAH too, so you're still receiving money while you're going to school. But the big one is they will also fund for other assets you need for the school. As an example of that, I knew a guy who used this program to do automotive, right? You wanted to get an education in automotive so you can get SAE certified or ASE certified, whatever the damn certification is. I'm not certified in that, so I don't know. But the mechanical certification, right? And part of the class, he also had to buy tools. Well, usually post 9/11 or those other ones won't buy the tools. They'll buy maybe like books or pay for the class. But if there's other things you usually have to buy to be able to use in the class, they don't pay for that kind of stuff. Well, this program does. So he got a bunch of tools they were paid for through this program. Another example of that is the person I knew who got I believe a master's degree in like IT field type of thing, was able to, you know, get the school paid for and everything, but that person needed to take like some tests that, you know, are required, you know, once you graduate to be able to get certified in these areas. Those tests were paid for by that program. He also needed some programs to be able to kind of do some more learning and do some other classes and some projects and even electives and everything. That program paid for those software that you need for that class. And this isn't something that I have to use like right away. The one individual that I knew, I think he had already been out for like 10 years, and then he decided to enroll in Voc Rehab, and what it was called at the time, and was able to utilize it even after being out of the Army for already 10 years. So I don't believe that there's an expiration. There might be, I'm not sure what that is. You'd probably have to talk to like a VA representative to get more clarification on that side of it. But nonetheless, the program itself is just an amazing program if you qualify for it though, because there is some qualifications along with that. Some of the common qualifications I've seen is they usually want someone who's got a VA disability rating of 30% or more, but there is qualifications you can still get to be able to allow you to get this program even with less than that. Usually it just kind of comes down to you talking to someone, usually with the VA, with one of those representatives that kind of deals with the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program, and looking into it. So don't think that, oh, I only have 10% rating, or I have a 0% rating, I don't have any rating or whatever at all. Still talk to them, because sometimes there is exceptions where you can still qualify for things, even though you don't have those ones you always hear about for that specific requirement. I myself use the 9/11 one, but I've been kind of tempted to want to look into it and maybe go back to school and utilize this program and see if I can qualify for it, and see if that would be a better idea of, you know, using more education, because like I said, with like the GI Bill, it only pays for a 4-year degree, where this program can pay for a much longer degree if you really want to pursue that kind of avenue. Now, I'm sure there's probably more little hidden secrets to the Army than just these two, but these are the ones that I've always commonly heard about when I've talked to like current soldiers, veterans and everything, and they have no idea these existed. They're like, holy crap, I didn't know that existed. That's awesome. So these are the ones I wanted to highlight in this video. I would love to hear from you guys. If you know of like a hidden gem, a hidden secret that not a lot of people know about, let me know down in the comment section down below. Now, I just got a text that I guess there's a soldier that has to do CQ on a Saturday, and it's gonna ruin his whole entire weekend. But his leadership said that he can get out of it if this video can get 500 likes. So make sure to hit that thumbs up on this video. Maybe we can save a soldier from having to do weekend CQ or staff duty. If you enjoyed this type of content, of course, you know, subscribe and everything. Check out some more of my videos over here. You can check out those videos right there. Links down in the description box for social media and much more. I'm Christopher Chaos. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. See ya.